Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well and welcome back to another devlog, albeit a shorter one, on my Indie Wizard multiplayer game. So in this really quick devlog, I'm going to give you a quick overview of how the Spell Overhaul is going, and the reason I'm doing this is because I'm away for the rest of August, so there'll be no progress in the game, and I won't have much to share, so I thought this would be a good idea just to give you a quick feeling for how everything's going and where we're at. So everything's genuinely going quite well. The biggest hurdle has now been kind of gotten over, which was setting them up for networking, and pretty much everything I've tested with it on networking seems to work. There's been a few changes for how the spells are set up and how they work, but that's to be expected. So first of all, the custom inspectors, which I kind of mentioned in the last video, are all done and finished. So we have the custom inspector, which kind of shows the overrides, how the spell's set up, and in a more condensed and cleaner fashion. They were a new thing for me really, so playing around with them took a lot of brain power, and using Twitch and using ChatGPT, which was a really interesting tool to kind of help when Googling doesn't always help. And yeah, we have the custom inspectors now, which has made everything look a lot nicer. Apart from that, we needed to actually set up the spells to work with networking, and that took a little while. It wasn't as hard as I thought, and the spells, how they kind of worked is differently now to how it was before, and I prefer how they are now. And I kind of have settings for different components can replicate and some can't, because I kind of outlined what I want to be across the network, and we kind of want movement to be handled by whoever spawns it and they tell the others how to move, and that's kind of what it does. It did kind of lead me back to another issue I've been having a little while ago, and that was with the push and pull spell. They did not work. Over the network they just didn't really work and they looked stuttery. And there were multiple reasons for this, and I discovered one of the big reasons they didn't work on players is because I was giving players a rigid body and a character controller component, and apparently they only need one, and in my case they needed the character controller, so I changed it to do that, and that worked a lot better. Them having the character controller just means that instead of adding a force, what I kind of do is say, hey, you need to be force moving in this direction, and it works. It's kind of like I'm just telling them to move a certain way in a certain direction, but it works as a quick thing for force. The issue I had before was they would kind of move indefinitely in that way for a very long time, and that wasn't good. So kind of what we do is we say, you need to move in this direction, and we kind of take away how much they need to move by over time being how long they're knocked back for. And it works, which is a really, really nice thing to see working. Finally, it's been on my to-do list for a very long time to get that working, but it's great, it works. Another thing I had to do for that then was delayed spells. So there are currently no delayed spells. All the spells kind of happen as they happen, but I kind of like the idea of a spell being able to happen a few seconds after it's happened, so you could kind of hit someone with a spell and a few seconds later they knock back or they take damage. And that took a while, especially over networking, because we had to components can kill the spell early if we want them to, so we can say, oh, if it stops moving and there's no more ways it can collide with something, just kill the spell. Which is fine, but for a delayed spell, that wouldn't work. So I had to think about how to do it. Currently, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, of basically just saying, hey, if you can't move and you can't do anything else, you can just hide the spell for a bit, which is a new thing I added to the visual component to be able to hide VFX basically, but that seemed to work. I'm not sure if I love this system, but it seems to work quite nicely. It still needs a few little tests, especially with networking, to make sure it's all fine, but for the most part it seems to be pretty good, and hopefully it should mean that's done. So with all them done, what's kind of next for this whole milestone? Well, now I've got to do the actual task, which I've kind of been putting off, of making spells, which I think will be a really fun task, and I am looking forward to it, especially making some new VFX to kind of add to spells rather than just a fireball VFX done different ways in different colours. But I've currently got a list of spell ideas, and it includes doing an acid blast, a snowball, a catapult spell, a wind spell which can affect nearby spells, which will be an interesting one, a teleport, a pickup spell, an ice wall, and the more mana you put into it, the bigger it is, and a shark typhoon. Those are the current ideas I've been given. If you have any more, I insist you leave them down in the comments below, or better yet, join the Discord and put them there, because the more people who join the Discord, the more active it feels, which is just nicer, I think. Yeah, these ideas kind of have to mean I will need to make some more components and make sure they work, but we'll do that one step at a time. Any ones that can just kind of be set up, like an acid blast, for example, which to me would just be deal damage and maybe deal a bit of damage over time, I can do that. It could also lead to a status effect component where I can say, okay, you're slowed for X seconds, or maybe that's what a snowball can do. There are a lot of variations of what these spells can do, and I'm really looking forward to actually making some. When I've created the spells, more or less this milestone's done. I'll need to check over some, make sure everything works, maybe do a few tweaks here and there, but the last thing I really need to do is just create these spells. There's a few little bugs with this milestone I should investigate, but the main juice of the milestone will be done. But this will probably have to be done when I'm back from my trip after August. And hopefully in September I'll have another video for you all, like a proper devlog, rather than a short 5-ish minute devlog, which you've got now. But apart from that, I hope you're all doing well as always. Again, if you like what you see here, make sure you like and subscribe, join the Discord, watch the other devlogs if you haven't already. Wizard game is coming along nicely, is how I want to put it. But basically everyone, I want to thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you have a lovely day. Bye.